Hi, this is Corral again, and I'm back talking about, like I said, one of my favorite things in Spanish and in English, but in English you don't really teach it. But in Spanish, most definitely you teach it because it's one of the most important aspects in understanding the language is the subjunctive. And let me tell you why the subjunctive is so important. Think about, especially if you're in a certain condition, especially let's say you're a parent or a teacher or anyone who's in charge of someone else, right? Or in a situation. Now, I want you to understand something. I'm only talking about one aspect of the subjunctive. The subjunctive is used for a lot of things in Spanish. But of course, when I'm teaching a subject that is not the easiest, it is not the easiest subject to assimilate, right? I start little by little, just little chunks. Just little chunks. So probably with me, because I only teach up to the second level, probably with me, you only get a tiny chunk. But you at least become familiar with the idea, the concept, right, of the construct of the subjunctive. So I'm only teaching one little aspect because the aspect that I'm teaching, which is talking about desire, what you want or you desire from someone else, is not the only reason you use the subjunctive, by no means. By no means. Okay, so let me show you a book that I have. Okay, just a second. This book, another book that I love, and it's called A New Reference, Grammar of Modern Spanish, right, by John Butt and Carmen Benjamin. Excellent book. Has excellent chapters on Spanish. And it really goes into the grammar I love this book. I have about 4 or 5 copies, right? And I destroyed the 4 copies. So after a couple years, should I say months, I have to sort of put the book away because I have to get another copy since this is hard copy. Since it's a soft copy. I think I have a hard copy, but I'm not sure. All right. So, but I have a lot of these. I have a lot of that particular grammar book. Love it, love it. I recommend it to all my students. Once again, it's not by me. I have no stocks or anything. Okay, so think about how many times you talk about something as a reality, I speak Spanish, which you do, right? Versus when you are talking about what you want someone else to do. If you're parents, you're always using the subjunctive. If you're a teacher, you're always using the subjunctive. Because you're always telling your child, I want you to clean your room. I want you to eat all your food. I want you to go to school and learn. I want you to do this. I want you, I desire this. There's more than one way to say want, right? But I desire this from you, right? Versus telling your child about reality. I go to school, you speak Spanish, whatever. So I say that depending on your circumstances, you may even use the subjunctive more than the indicative. But that's neither here nor there, right? That's neither here nor there. By the way, that's a subjunctive. That's neither here nor there. The point is that it's a tense that is used a lot. And it looks like, if you don't understand it, that your teacher has taught you incorrectly if you don't know the subjunctive. I've had students who say to me, no se dice así. No, en mi caso no se dice así. A lo mejor en México, pero no. Right? And I say to them, because I'm not using the mood that you use, that you're using, or that you normally hear. These are children of people who are primarily Spanish speakers. And they were born in the United States. So they know Spanish, but they know it as a oral language. They've never really studied it like they studied English, first grade, second, third, fourth, all the way to the 12th grade. So they know it as their parents speak it, but they can't tell you when it's the future, when it's the past, because they've never studied it. Just like I wouldn't be able to tell you in English if I never studied English. I studied English from kindergarten, from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. And then on my own, and then of course, going to graduate school, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's the difference. The indicative in Spanish would be hablo español. Oh, let me write it in black. Make it look better. Oh. So you say hablo español. You're stating a fact, what you do. Or hablo inglés. Right? You're just stating a fact, what you do, right? An imperative would be habla español. Right? Or habla español. It depends if you're talking about usted or tú or nosotros. I'm just going to say habla español. Okay. Interrogative would be just a question. ¿Hablas español? So you're just asking the question. ¿Hablas español? The conditional would be si vivieras en los Estados Unidos hablarías. That's a little bit complicated because I'm using part of it, the subjunctive. But the hablaría, that's the conditional, the entire verb, that is the entire verb, including the AR, the ER, the IR, and then the ia, ias, ia, iamos, ian. So, whatever, blah, 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 hablaría, or hablarías, depending on who's speaking español. Right? Now, this is an AR verb. So you've been always taught in the present tense, the AR verb is o, as, a, amos, an. And you teach this, and then the ER verb is, o, as, a, amos, an, and the IR verb, I'm talking about the present indicative, right, is o, as, a, emos, because I'm talking about the IR verb, emos, an. But in subjunctive, the verbs exchange. So the AR verb takes the ER ending, and the ER and IR verb takes the AR ending. Okay, so here we go. So if I'm talking about what I want you to do, the first thing I'm teaching, because remember I'm only teaching a teeny bitty aspect of the subjunctive, I'm going to say, how do you say I want you to do something? I'm going to use one verb, basically, one verb, because there's a lot of verbs you can say that with, like ojalá, espero. But I'm going to use the verb querer, which is an irregular verb. The verb querer is irregular. That means you can't use the rule in order to conjugate it. And why? Because that E, when you conjugate it in the present tense, becomes the IE. Right? So if I'm talking about what I want, so how do I say I want? Quiero. That's a Q, by the way. Quiero que. Now, this is what I want. So this is in the indicative because I'm stating a reality or a fact. Now, the rest of the sentence is in the subjunctive because I'm telling you what I want. Not from me. I'm not talking about what I want from myself, but what I want from you. So, quiero que hables. Español. This, I know normally speaking you see this with hablas, but I put hables because this is a present subjunctive. The subjunctive is not a tense, it's a mood. So it comes in different tenses. But of course, I'm only going to be teaching the present subjunctive. In the next video, I'm going to look at how do you make a verb go from the indicative to the subjunctive. Thank you so much, everyone. This is not difficult. It's just that we don't do this in our language. So if you don't do something, you don't think about it that way. And therefore, you have to kind of like, change your mind. But that's good because the more you are forced to think out of the box, the more highways your brain gets. So you begin to use your brain more because you're forcing your brain, When you do the subjunctive in Spanish, Just like I want to learn Chinese, and I know it's going to be not the easiest thing, especially when it comes to tones and recognizing the different tones. And that a tone can change the meaning of a word. Just like to a point in Spanish, it's different saying hablo y hablo. Putting the emphasis on the last syllable changes the word hablo, which means I speak, to habló, which means he spoke. And it took me a long time to hear that. Okay, thank you. And I'll be back, and I'm going to look at the different subjunctive in Spanish. We're going to look at the AR verbs, the ER verbs, and IR verbs. Thank you so much. Bye now.